Hello everyone, and welcome to this session on Title III Programs Consolidated Application. As you may know, there are multiple webinars in this series to help you with the 1920 Consolidated Application. This session is specifically for Title III programs and completing that portion of the consolidated application. My name is Lodi Arnold, and I am the EL Program Administrator for the Department of Public Instruction. And some general information before we get started. I just wanted you to know initially about that general information webinar and the fact that this presentation is specifically for the Title III portion of the consolidated application. And the information in this presentation is specific to English learners and immigrant children and youth. Throughout the presentation, there will be different activities and things like that that are mentioned, but please keep in mind anything in this section is specifically for serving English learners and immigrant children and youth. And the other piece of information I wanted to share with you initially is to make sure that you wait until after the final allocations are released. We're anticipating beginning to mid-July. Please don't submit before that because you may have to get it unsubmitted and make some modifications and then resubmit it, which might cause a delay in getting it approved or resubmitting, things like that. Just hold off until after final allocations have been released. Okay, for this section or session, we will be going through the purpose and use of funds in the Title III law, as well as transferability, non-public school issues, and I'll discuss a little bit about evidence-based. Then we'll get into the actual consolidated application, and I'll show you those sections that pertain to Title III. And I will close with a few resources for you and my contact information in case you have any questions. Okay, let's get started. We will start with just some basic information on Title III Part A of ESEA, which is now authorized by ESSA. So starting out, the purpose for Title III is listed there. Now that's the general purpose. And I'm not going to read those for you. You can read those as you have time. Then we also have the purpose for the subgrants, which are the grants the state allocates to districts or consortia. Eligibility for the Title III subgrants. At first, you must be an LEA or a cooperative of LEAs or consortium of LEAs together. And if you apply individually as a district, you must have a population of English learners that allows you to receive at least a $10,000 allocation. Just to give you kind of an idea, the general per pupil amount that is allocated with Title III funds for districts is anywhere from $70 per student up to about $150 per student. So that gives you an idea, if you look at your population of English learners, how much of an allocation you could generate individually as a district. Also, if you combine districts, you still need to have at least that $10,000 allocation. So you must get enough districts together to generate at least that amount. And in order to be included in a consortium or a co-op, you must make sure that you have indicated this in stars. There's an intent to apply section in stars for federal programs. and in that section you must click the option that shows you want to be included in a consortium or co-op. And then another step in that process is to have an agreement between your district and the consortium fiscal agent or consortium representative. That agreement gets signed by the authorized representative of your district, as well as the fiscal agent, authorized representative, or consortium representative. Then those are all sent to the consortium, who in turn sends them to us. Another step in the process is to meet with all of the grantee districts. You need to meet together to discuss how you will spend your funds. I can't reiterate this enough. I want you to make sure that you understand each district in the consortium with English learners needs to have a voice in how those funds will be spent. So make sure that you are meeting together and deciding together how you want to spend those funds. Then we'll get into uses of funds. The first thing you need to understand for Title III funds is that it must be supplemental to a core EL program that you must already have in your district. That core program has to be funded by state or local funds, and you cannot spend Title III funds on anything that's required by law. That's federal law, state law, local law. So think about that when you are determining what activities and programs you are funding with Title III money. So the law specifically states that Title III funds must help districts or eligible entities provide an effective LIEP, which is a language instruction educational program. The funds must provide effective professional development to classroom teachers and other school staff or community-based organizational personnel. Now think about this. Many districts will provide EL-related professional development for their EL teachers, but not other professionals in the school or community professionals or personnel. Title III specifically requires effective professional development to all staff in your school. And we'll talk about what effective means in just a minute. And then you also need to think about providing or implementing other effective activities and strategies to support that LIEP. As some of you may know, Title III funds are not real abundant. You don't get a real high dollar amount with Title III funds, so you might be thinking it would be difficult to do all of these things. Just keep in mind the use of funds should be centered around these three things. We don't expect that you're going to be able to do everything you'd probably like to do in these three areas, but at least try to maintain the focus in this area. This slide shows you some activities that you could implement, gives you some ideas. If you have any questions on any of these, please give me a call and we can discuss. There are many innovative ways that districts and consortia have used their funds, so please feel free to call me if you have ideas that you feel are out of the box or you're just not sure if they're allowable. Please don't hesitate to call. So I mentioned effective professional development, and the way that the federal law defines it is with these components. It must improve the instruction and assessment of ELs. or enhance the ability of teachers or other school staff. It has to be effective in increasing children's ELP or English language proficiency or subject matter, or teacher knowledge and skills. And then the last one, it says it has to be of sufficient intensity and duration, which they don't consider to be a one-day training or a short-term workshop or conference. This is something we can also talk about, because there might be ways, even if you have a one-day training, there may be ways that you can implement that or use that information in your PLCs, for example, or ongoing in conversations that you have with staff. So if you have any questions on that or concerns, let me know. Then just a bit on transferability. The main thing here I want you to understand is the direction of the funds and the way that the funds can move. They cannot move out of Title III, but you can use Title II and Title IV funds and move them into or transfer them to Title III. So keep that in mind. Then I put a note there that there is a separate webinar specifically on transferability, so if you want more information on that, you can check out that webinar as well. Then a little bit on non-public schools. If you have a non-public school in your district, please understand that you must provide support to their English learners if the school is interested in participating. Now, they would indicate that on the affirmation of consultation that is done each year, usually in the spring of the year around April. That affirmation form is completed through a meeting, which is called a meaningful consultation meeting with the public school. So the non-public school and the public school administrators get together and discuss their federal programs, and the non-public school will let the public school know which federal programs they're interested in participating. The services for Title III funds, basically the way that you can think about that is the student allocation that you get per pupil for Title III should be provided to non-public school students or teachers or schools as well. So most often I can tell you that public schools will provide assessment services for non-public schools because that is allowed under the law. Although in general for public schools that would be a supplanting issue, but providing it for non-public schools is allowable under Title III. So providing assessment services such as the screener assessment and the annual ELP assessment might be when you take the teacher's time and materials that they might need to supply, those types of things. When you take that into consideration, you probably are at that per pupil amount. However, I do encourage public school districts to go above and beyond that if possible. Invite the non-public school staff to your professional development that you might have for English learner topics. Allow them the ability to use your materials and resources if possible. Try to collaborate on that so we keep the students in mind and really focus on their best interest. Then evidence-based, this is really strong in ESSA. All the programs that you provide through Title III must be evidence-based, and it gives you a little bit more information on that here, as well as a link at the bottom that talks a little bit more about evidence-based. Then we'll get into the consolidated application itself. Listed there for you is the consolidated application guidance. Please feel free to refer to that for assistance if you have questions or kind of need some guidance through the application process. there are also help screens available for you to help guide you through the application itself. These are the sections that you'll find when you go in to complete the consolidated application. I am only going through the Title III sections, and we'll go into the actual application in just a minute. Starting out, you have the allocations page, which shows you, gives you a space to put in the contact person for that federal title program, as well as their phone number and email, the signature authority or the authorized representative's name and email. Remember, that person is listed in the school board minutes, must be approved by the school board. And then your allocation, carryover funds, and total available funds for each of those federal title programs is listed separately on that allocations page. And I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. Then in the Title III section, you have the Language Instruction Educational Program, or LIEP, and basically you're just describing how you're using your Title III funds and how you're supporting those English learners in learning English and meeting the state's content standards. There are a couple of separate sections that have been added this year. Those are the last two bullets. The second to last bullet wants you to describe to us how your use of Title III funds will align to the state's strategic vision. And the last one has you describe how the use of funds aligns to your local strategy map in advanced ed. And then a couple other areas on that Title III section, or in that Title III section, we have a professional staff area where you list any professional staff who are actually getting paid with Title III funds. Now remember, any professional teachers or certified teachers working with Title III funds must be supplemental to a core program that you already have in your district. And if you have questions on that, let me know. Non-professional staff, that would be like paraprofessionals. It could be school counselors, it could be social workers, parent liaisons, those types of positions. Again, they still need to be supplemental, but they are allowable uses of Title III funds. And then there are a few assurances in the Title III area, and a space for Title III correspondence where you can put in any staff contact information, and they will receive Title III correspondence from the Department of Public Instruction. Keep in mind, in this area, this will only be for Title III correspondence. If you have teachers who you would like to receive general EL information or English Learner Program information, you can put those names in the MIS 01 Fall Report under EL programs. Okay, so let's go into the actual consolidated application. Hopefully I'll still be signed in here. Nope, I guess not. So this first page is the allocations page. If you look on the left-hand side here, those are all the different pages that are available in the consolidated application. So this first page, the allocations page, as I told you, lists all those different title programs. And as we scroll down, you'll see Title III is listed. And under Title III, we have the contact person, their phone and email, the signature authority or the authorized rep and their email, and then your allocations amounts. The allocation amounts are pre-populated, so you don't have to put those in. Remember, the one thing we suggest is to wait until after those allocations are final before you submit your consolidated application. You can work on it and get it done, but please don't submit it until final applications come out. And when final allocations do come out, please make sure you check that your activities and allocations match, they align. And I don't think you can submit without them being the same or aligning, but that's something you may get a warning in, just saying that maybe you didn't spend all your funds or you overspent your funds. That could be because the final allocations were a little bit different than the estimated allocations that initially went into the application. Okay, then the Title III section of the application. Oh, I got kicked out. Hold on. Sorry about this. Now I'm trying to go too fast. There we go. Okay, so shadow federal title consolidated application. I'm going to pick just our district, DPI district, and next school year, and then Title III. So this is the Title III section. This is where I showed you all, or told you all those descriptions are. So we start with the first three that are specific to Title III, and those come right out of the Title III law. So you'll just type in the text boxes, those descriptions. And then that next one, how are the Title III funds addressing our state initiatives? It doesn't mean that what you describe here hits all of these areas, but as long as it hits or aligns with one or more, you'll be fine in that area. And then also, how do your use of Title III funds align to your local strategy map in Advanced Ed? And then we go down to professional staff, and you'll see there's quite a bit of information that goes into that area if you are adding a professional teacher or certified teacher. The big thing here where we get a lot of errors is in the FTE section. Under FTE, you want to only put this is full-time equivalent. You want to only put the amount of time that teacher is spending in Title III or being paid with Title III funds. So if they're a full-time teacher and they're a 1.0 FTE, so they're one full-time, but they're only getting paid with Title III funds for 50% of their time, their FTE will be a 0.5 in this section. We just want to know what's paid with Title III. Same with non-professional staff, the FTE is in that one as well. And that is only the part of their time that is spent and paid with Title III funds. Then you have a few Title III assurances there. Just check the boxes showing that you will or do comply with them. And then the contact information at the bottom for additional contacts. Now remember, the contact on the allocations page will already receive Title III information, but these would be additional or above and beyond that person. So then I want to show you the assurances page because there is a section in there that refers to Title III. So these are additional assurances for Title III in the general assurances page. And in order to submit your consolidated application, you have to check that you've read and understood each of those assurances and input the date that you did that. The other section is the budget section that will pertain to Title III. So in this budget section, this is where you actually input those integrated activities that are specific to Title III. Those are put in up in the integrated activities section. You can use more than one object code on one activity. You just split it out accordingly. So you don't have to do, for example, if you have somebody attending a conference, for example, you can use the integrated activity of professional development and put in there travel, registration, all of that into one integrated activity. They don't have to be separate. However, they do have to be coded separate within that integrated activity. Okay, so let's go back. Make sure I hit everything here. Okay, yep. Okay, the resources that we have available for you to help in this process, we have general consolidated application information, that consolidated application guidance that I mentioned before. There is a Title III page on the NDDPI website with Title III information. The consolidated application help screens that I'd mentioned before that'll walk you step by step through the whole process. And then I also included Title III Part A law in case you are interested in reading the law. Our NDDPI contacts for the consolidated application or schools in general has changed a little bit this year. We have now gone to more of a program-related model. So if you have questions on Title III, you can see the people who are in our office to answer those questions. Lucy Fredericks and myself, as well as all of the other programs within the consolidated application and their staff. So that concludes this session of the Title III Consolidated Application. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call me or Cami Bauman. Cami is our new fiscal officer in the Title III or EL programs office, or the Indian and Multicultural Education office. She comes to us from the assessment office, and Jill, who was previously in that position, has moved to our MIS department. So feel free to contact Cami or myself with any questions you might have. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful day.